Hello, everybody again. Today, we are going to have a topic about cybersecurity, and nowadays it is a very important topic. I have my colleague Thomas Mikolaitis right here. He will, let's see, host the second part of this webinar, and the whole webinar will take approximately half an hour. After that, we are going to have Q&A session. During that Q&A session, we are going to let's see, we will try to answer all your questions. By the way, after the webinar, we are going to upload the recording and the Q&A session to our website and our YouTube page, let's say. So do not miss the chance to subscribe to YouTube, to our social media campaigns. And so today about cybersecurity. And I believe that, let's see, the main part of our attendants are here already. And I would like to ask a question. Do you feel safe online? And for this, to answer this, I would like to launch a short poll, just, uh, what level of concern do you have about the increased level of cyber attacks nowadays? Just a short poll, half a minute, no more. All right, I see that most of you answered on 3 or 4, meaning that you concern about the cybersecurity, cyber attacks, and it's great because this webinar that we are hosting today is let's see, important right now. All right, so thank you very much for voting. And going further with the agenda, as you know, this webinar is dedicated to the cybersecurity topic, and today me and my colleague will go through the importance of cybersecurity. We will overview the current global situation, list the most common cyber threats, and then how to prevent them. And I believe that major part of you would agree that we feel and see that security in cyberspace is gaining more attention. Stability and safety is not like a self-evident term anymore. Whole world is constantly and rapidly changing. Cybersecurity always was a buzzword, but now more and more people start to understand the true importance. Why? Traditional cybersecurity often focuses on software, cloud services, and networks. IoT has expanded the scope of security. Today, it is hard to keep track of all components of your network. We use various, let's say, cloud services, multiple operators, and a bunch of API integrators. Sometimes seems like only the God knows where our devices sends our data, and not so rarely we use the devices with firmware we know little about. In 2022, 43% of cyber attacks targeted small businesses, of which 83% were not equipped to recover after the breach. And not only small businesses are attacked, huge global companies also experience cyber threats and their losses are huge. Successful cyber attack results in 3 million euros of losses per incident on average. Moreover, it takes approximately 280 days on average to identify and respond to a cyber attack. And come on, it's 9 months. 9 months, it's almost a year. Connectivity became common everywhere, from factories and enterprises to home appliances. Growth in network connectivity has resulted in increasing the size of the cyber attack surface, thereby making organizations more vulnerable to compromise. Technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, cloud services is the future of our digital world. The potential cyber risks and vulnerabilities of these technologies should be on minds of every leader when considering technology adoption and implementation. Remote work or learning is a new normal, right? I think 3 years we are working remotely or half and it has its own challenges for cybersecurity. How to make your network safe when people are connecting to company network using, and nobody knows how safe connectivity. Rapid changes and unfriendly events in geopolitical space rise cybersecurity from user or company level to the new level, national security, right? And also a media is a good guy here. It plays a significant role in informing the public about cybersecurity issues. As cyber attacks gets more coverage and becomes more visible to average citizens and users, cybersecurity gets more awareness and even lowers the level user starts to learn how, let's say, to prevent these threats. With the ever increasing danger of a security breach and businesses moving more and more of their data online, the demand for cybersecurity specialists grows. Cybersecurity becomes more popular because IT professionals are changing their career path, let's say, to new opportunities. However, despite the good, the bad hides in the shadows, right? Funny thing, as dependence on digital technology is skyrocketing, and so does, the cybercrime. Cyber criminals are improving their opportunities to exploit vulnerabilities against people and organizations through technology. We usually think that um, cyber criminal is a pale guy with a dark hood sitting in the even darker room. It could be, but under this image, hidden hides even more. Cyber crimes are a part of well organized, let's say, criminals. They are more agile than ever, adapting new technologies, tailoring their attacks using novel methods, and cooperating closely with each other. Let's say, just an example, Europol recently reported that the organized crime groups recruited hackers for phishing, social engineering attacks, and phishing not like, with the rod phishing, but phishing, also SIM swapping and sending malware to victims to gain control of bank accounts. Right? It's so important. And the dark web makes cybercrime an easier task. You can hire a person to make a cyber attack starting from only 1,000 euros. Low level cyber attacks, such as social network profile theft or school grades changing, in schools database, starts from 200 euros. Cybercrime becomes cheap, but brings huge losses. you know so nowadays we see even 8 times more cyber attacks. It's a huge number. Imagine 8 times more. A cyber attack is defined as an action designed to target any element of a computerized information system to change, destroy, or steal data, or harm the network. And businesses representatives tells that top three types of cyber attacks that they are afraid of are ransomware, social engineering, and malicious insider activity. When it comes to private users, this type of users are the most, let's say, afraid of their infrastructure breakdown, identity theft, and ransomware in, let's say, is shared in both groups even. So there are plenty of different cyber attack types, and every of it deserves its own webinar. But come on, it, we do not have so much time, and due to the lack of this time, we will continue on with the most common ones. All right, so we will begin with the phishing. And social engineering in cybersecurity means the psychological manipulation of people into disclosing confidential information to attackers. A phishing attack is a type of cybersecurity threat that targets users directly through email, text, or direct message. During these attacks, malicious person acts as a trusted contact to steal sensitive personal data like logins, bank account, and payment card information. Phishing can be simple explained in 5 steps, and I will use let's say, an example with financial motivation. All right. So a person receives an email which looks like sent from well-known bank. Like in Lithuania, we have SEB banks, Swedbank, and others. The email looks legit with all well-known bank details. Why don't trust it? Yeah. The email tells that there is an urgent issue with the person account and instructs to click on the link. After the click on the link, the person is directed to a web page which looks the same as the well-known bank. And without doubt, person tries to log in and shares username and password with criminals. And besides the share of sensitive information, a person could download malware. He will not know that he downloaded, but he will download the malware to the computer, which will be tracking and collecting other data and sending it to the scammer, the hacker. So how to prevent from the phishing? Simple. Act like every email is a potential phishing attempt. Check and verify the sender's address. Read the email and ask yourself if this email is legit. Is email CDA logical? Even grammar or spelling mistakes can identify potential scam. Official email have to be written with no mistakes. Look for your name and ask yourself if this email really could be addressed to you. Check for suspicious requests from the sender. If any of these steps looks suspicious for you, do not interact with this email. Trust me. And one of the most basic defenses that you can take is a spam filter. Most email programs and services has it, so use it. Update your software constantly, let's say once in a month at least. Security software updates are important to have the newest malicious software list to detect and remove them. Use MFA, means multi-factor authentication requires multiple pieces of information for someone to be able to log in and gain access. Block unreliable websites. A web filter can be used to block access to malicious websites in the event, let's say, an employee clicks on the malicious link. Educate your employees, educate them, because a company might have 500 employees. Not all of them will know how to prevent from phishing, so educate them. Another part of the cyber attack is a malware. What is it? A malware is a software designed, let's say, like like a virus, which steals data or inflict damage on a computer or software systems. Therefore, in the context of this malware definition, it refers to the various types of malicious software, such as again viruses, spyware, and ransomware. Cyber criminals use these tools to gain access to the network and its devices to steal the data and damage systems. How to detect that, let's say, your PC is infected with the malware? When you get flu, your body tells you by sending the signals that could be sneezing, coughing, or increased body temperature. You can also uh, be identified that your system is infected by its behavior. Watch for those signs from your machine, from your computer, let's say, a slow computer. Malware often affects the speed of your device while you are using the internet or applications. A computer that frequently crashes or freezes during normal use. A ton of pop-up ads. These often indicate that adware, a type of malware, has gotten into your system. If you see these, it is important not to click on them because they could launch a code that causes further damage. Your browser is showing new toolbars, another thing, extensions, or a different homepage, right? A loss of disk space. If you feel your available disk space has suddenly diminished, it could be because malware is on your hard drive. As well in internet activity on your network. Some automatically, let's say, automatically accessing the internet, causing an unusual increase in internet activity that does not correlate with user behavior. When your system is working harder than it normally would, this could be again due to malware taking up your valuable resources. It is important to be proactive when trying to avoid attacks. This involves a combination of prevention and education. So avoid malware, and most malwares is relatively easy to spot if you know the signs. The most common places to encounter It are, let's say, within emails and pop-ups that appear on your devices. As I have mentioned before, uh, back up your data. Backing up the data from, let's say, uh, how to say, yeah. So backing up the data is a form of preemptive mitigation that will be invaluable if the malware attack is successful. Also, check the system, educate your employees. All employees should have a working understanding of what malware is, how it penetrates a system, its effects, and how the best to avoid it. Check for vulnerabilities. Have a full security system that can help you find the places where the malware might enter your network. Isolate viruses with, let's say, sandboxing. Um, Sandboxing prevents a malware attack mm, by isolating and confining malware to a protected environment. Further on our list is a ransomware. Uh, don't be scared, it's only 10 slides left approximately. So I will pass my word to Thomas, who will speak about more interesting things. So going back, the ransomware is a specific type of malware that holds data hostage in exchange for a ransom. It threatens to publish, block, or corrupt data or prevent a user from working or accessing their computer unless they meet the attacker demand. Social engineering, as I have mentioned before, plays a big role in cyber attacks and obviously in the ransomware attack. This is when people try to manipulate others into personal or confidential information. One common social engineering tactic is using emails or texts to scare the target into sharing sensitive information, opening a malicious file, or clicking on a malicious link. Today, ransomware is often sent through phishing emails. These malicious attachments infect the user's computer after being opened, such as, um, let's say, CryptoLocker act as a Trojan horse, infecting your computer and then looking for files to encrypt. Ransomware can also be spread through drive-by downloading, which is when a user visits a website that happens to be infected. The malware on that site is then downloaded and installed without the user even knowing about it. Common targets that ransomware is targeting, you know, uh, is like cyber criminals like to go for the low hanging fruit, which often includes small and mid-sized businesses because they do not have, let's say, so-called adequate security measures in place. Small and medium businesses also are less likely to have large teams of IT professionals who understand what ransomware is. Ransomware attacks also target companies that have an urgent need to access their files, such as organizations that depend on databases and storehouses of marketing collateral, or let's say applications to run their um, day-to-day business. The business may reason that even through the attacker is asking, uh, let's say, for a couple $1,000, they will lose far more if business interruption continues. Sorry. All right. So how does it work? Regardless of the ransomware definition, once it enters your computer, it's secretly infected. The software then proceeds to attack files and access and alter credentials without the user being able to tell. As a result, the computer infrastructure is effectively held hostage by the person who controls the malware. So, how to prevent from them? Uh, Experts agree that prevention is the best way to combat ransomware. There are several things that you can do to secure your devices. Update frequently, as mentioned before. So updating your devices can be an effective, free way to shield them. Many updates include antivirus protection against new types of cyber threats, as the device, let's say, device manufacturer learns to combat different types of ransomware, and authenticate the software. Authenticating software ensures any software you run on your device comes from a reputable source, not a cyber criminal. Use firewall and install antivirus protection. Do you not think that Mac uh, is undefeatable as everybody thought it 10 years ago? No, just install antivirus protection and it will do the work for you. Backup your data because you do not want to lose it. So just have the backup. And again, educate your employees if you have your own business. And the last part, one more cyber attack on our list is cross-site scripting. XSS is a web security issue that sees cyber criminals execute malicious scripts on legitimate or trusted websites. Um, in an XSS attack, an attacker uses a web page or web applications to send malicious code and, let's say, compromise users' interactions with a vulnerable application. So spreading worms on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube have all been successfully attacked in this way. While session hijacking, which means malicious JavaScript, may be able to send the session ID to a remote site under the hacker's control, allowing the hacker to impersonate that user by, by hijacking a session in a progress. Identity theft, if the user enters confidential information such as credit card numbers into a compromised website, let's say. These details can be stolen using malicious JavaScript. And denial of service attacks and website vandalism. And my colleague will be speaking more about them. And the last about the damage that XSS makes is the theft of sensitive data like passwords and financial theft, financial frauds on banking sites. So to prevent from XSS, there are some general principles that can keep websites and web applications safe for users. So the first one is risk awareness, and it is crucial for all users to be aware of the risk they face online. Treating all users input, let's say, as if it is an untrusted, and it is the best way to prevent from those vulnerabilities, right? So now I would like to ask my colleague Thomas Mikolaitis to speak about physical attacks. More interesting topic that than I made.
Thank you, Randus, and hello everyone. I know it's that much interesting, that Andrews have talked since again, the digital world becoming a real world now. Facebook metaverse. It's almost a real world, and sometimes this becoming quite a blur line between the real and digital world. But yeah, I want today talk about the physical attacks, and the physical type of attacks I like to call the ones which selects the victim b- before the attack happens. It's not just trying to lure them into a trap by activating malicious code by just click that part or click another part. It's directly interferes with the victim. And the first attack which is come to my mind when you hear physical attacks is the denial of service attack, the DOS attack. And of course, the more known variation of denial of service attack is distributed denial of service attack, or DDoS, which is very common word in our world now. And exactly the latter one is the way more common, because now it is hard to imagine how any user can have computational and network capabilities to perform such attack on and make noticeable effect on clouds, like Google, AWS, Azure, or any other vendors of such solutions. And the purpose of the DDoS attack is very simple. Try to overflow the server, then when overflow the server with abnormal network traffic or requests, you can disable and prevent entity from providing their normal service. You can disable the business. eBay can be simply shut down for a few hours, and how much the loss they can have by this such attack. Or again, DDoS can be ran just as a decoy to distract IT admins from the normal use of the work. But what I just have mentioned is technical part, what the attacker doing with this such type of attack. But there is some kind of other motives, and they can range from starting make some kind of protest or political statement to some kind of company, government, or person, which you don't like the way he thinks or some actions were done. Of course, this can be financial attack, take the hostage of such service. And as I just mentioned before with the ransomware, you can it's cheaper to pay the ransom and get to business back than trying to mitigate this attack and lost money while trying to mitigate and spend more money to fight that. So the businesses sometimes choose just go easy way, pay ransom, and prepare for future events. Or simply by they distracting the IT administrators, attackers are preparing the ground for future attacks. You just push that service and you to admins to work and analyze what is happening and prevent the DDoS attack, while they can make a brute force attack to hack the passwords, and just distract admins from what is happening in a real threat. So the purpose of DDoS is really huge. What type of DDoS attacks? And mainly there are three types of attacks of denial of service. The first one is so-called the volumetric attack, which is most common and most devastating for small businesses and of course huge corporations as well. This type of attack tries to overwhelm a network with a massive amount of traffic, and later I will give you an example of such attack, which you will see it's enormous amount of data by flooding the company and servers with such amount of data that they cannot even handle anymore, and just shutting down or performing just killing and dumping all the traffic into black holes to ensure service for the future and not damaging the hardware. And these attacks take advantage of the malware infested systems. Yeah, as I mentioned before, just at the beginning, we cannot imagine that one person with one computer, one laptop can do this. We have to have malware infested systems which works like bots. Hence, from here, we have the name botnet. We empowering unknown victims to make a crime against other people. The second type of denial of service attack is a protocol type. In this way, attacker is sending malformed connection requests to server, which hangs a targeted system with half open connections and leaving server waiting for what comes next, or just waiting to timeout. And just imagine if we multiply all this by tens of thousands of requests. Here we have an attack, and it's easily scaled, can be scaled, since it's simple attack if you have right software, right tools, and enough botnets in your army. And of course, last type is application layer attack. From first view, this attack can be looked as a legitimate web request, since it works with application layer. In this attack, a small amount of server CPU and memory is used. But if this is done with multiple clients at the same time, the resources of the server can be exhausted very quickly and it will crash. It especially happens with small businesses, which sometimes does not have enough resources to just buy bulk enough server or rent the cloud, which are capable enough to handle such attacks. And of course, sometimes it's just way cheaper to pay the ransom to avoid such thing. And when the DDoS attack happens, the hackers are now smart enough to just do not use one type. In most cases, all three types used at the same time, just for the administrators to have difficult time to differentiating what are bad, what are good. And when you have using three different types, you can push this to the limit. And of course, quite a famous DDoS attacks. There's a number publicly known DDoS attacks, but I just selected a few ones which are very interesting for me, and it's quite interesting as well. Is that AWS attack, Amazon Web Services in 2020, due to capabilities of LCDAP protocol, which allows really huge multiplication of attack. AWS have faced one of the biggest distributed denial of service attacks, which lasted them for 3 whole days. Imagine 3 days you are attacked, and at that moment, some of the traffic has peaked at astounding 2.3 terabytes per second. You just imagine you getting 2.3 terabytes of data every second. It's just like pushing the hard drives, 2 terabyte hard drives every second into the server. And of course, AWS worked that and survived, but you just can't imagine that for medium or small business, how this attack can be devastating and how you can be a hostage of such thing. Other very well-known, and of course, maybe one of the earlier DDoS attack is called Mafia Boy. And in 2000s, a hacker named Mafia Boy took some major websites like Dell, eBay, Yahoo. So, it's a big companies, the corporations. And for such attack, he done a clever thing. He compromised several universities networks and used their servers to conduct a DDoS attack on those websites. So again, unwilling university helped in such attack. So you see how the DDoS attacks can be devastating thing, and it's still a thing in these days. If you check, you will see that common DDoS attacks is very often, and for example, 10 gigabits per second flows are very often, even in these days. But of course, how we can defend from DDoS attacks. And again, as Andrews mentioned, with the malware or ransomware, it's always in preparations. You have to prepare, evaluate, and cooperate. Find the partners which helps you to mitigate such issues. Since again, DDoS is a massive type of attack. And for preparations, it's always the same formula. Use latest software to mitigate possibility of having vulnerabilities, security parts. Have a defense plan. Having a plan when you know how to act, it's always helpful. So, you don't running around just thinking what to do. You know what to do beforehand. And of course, have redundancy. Separate your internal network as network from your external network. So, if your external services are attacked, you won't lose productivity, at least in your internal communication. Evaluation part. You have to evaluate possible threats, since nowadays it's not a question if you will be attacked, it's when you will be attacked. Since buying the service is in internet of DDoS attack, again, it's very simple. You can go into dark web and order a DDoS attack to any company. And if you have an employee, maybe a rogue employee, it can be one of the vectors of that such attack. Of course, always check services you are using. If you have any services which might be related, activated in your server and not in use, it's also a possible threat and additional attack vector to your system. Always use only what you need and disable what you don't. And of course, ensure necessary capacity. Always have a buffer capacity in your systems. If you know that you're expecting, 10,000 clients a day, have at least 20, just to ensure that buffer, by prevent at least application layer attack type. This allows to save you. Always have a buffer. And lastly, cooperation. Nowadays, there is a number of DDoS mitigation services, and find a partner in that. They will help to prevent, and they will deal with DDoS attack, analyze it, and maybe help you to save your day from that part. Use capable cloud providers. The small ones not always can help. Of course, maybe they are cheaper, but as you've seen, AWS just stand at 3 days again, huge DDoS attack against them, and they're perfectly working that. And of course, cooperate with your ISP. ISP have way bigger resources on network capabilities. And of course, they can be first line of defense in your case. They can detect the issue which might occur ranging from DDoS attack. So these are quite a small suggestions for you and your company, how you prevent DDoS attack. Now let's look at the other type of attack, and which is called man-in-the-middle attack. But before talking about attack type, maybe let's look at how normal communication goes. In normal situation, communication between a client and a server is done directly. Of course, I'm very simplifying here, but just trust me, it's done directly without any third-party entities. Client sends data to server responds back. That's it. Of course, it's possible to compromise this communication. Attacker can physically or maliciously, with malicious software, can gain access to your network. And after that, it can, instead of allowing direct communication you with server, route all the data through his server, and of course impersonate you to a server and vice versa. So it just can inject his keys to get your data. Such attack can be done in different ways. For example, is gaining physical access to the router. Just plug some kind of device into a network and you have backdoors. Or maybe using unencrypted Wi-Fi publicly. Of course, there is more sophisticated attacks like evil twin attack, which allows to impersonate maybe so-called safe Wi-Fi with an evil twin. And of course, the malware type, installing into PC or browser extensions. In any of these attacks, attacker has a chance to intercept and collect your data. And the most worrying thing is that if the victim is not actively looking and searching for the attacker, it can be very difficult to see and detect such thing, since in most times this can be very unnoticeable. Of course, it might be a bit slower communication, but oh, I'm at bad communication levels, or it's bad Wi-Fi signal. So it's very dangerous attack, since this can work against you by finding it. And of course, goal of man-in-the-middle attack is no different than from the malware or any other type. It's always they want to collect your data, private, steal identity, make financial gains by stealing your credit card numbers or getting into your banking accounts. And it even maybe can be infecting your device with the malware for the future attacks, to use your device for DDoS attack, or again, just have passive look what is happening, creating you as a bot. Different cases, but again, it's very, very repetitive all over. So the goals are very similar despite the type of attack. And of course, some notable attacks can be mentioned, but one attack in 2003, quite a while. It's almost 20 years since that attack happened. The Belkin wireless routers had a software in the device, which periodically took an HTTP connection of the client and routed through device. And what it did is that the original request of HTTP communication have not received went to the server. And instead of getting to the Google or Facebook or any other part, the user received another built-in device advertisement. You just imagine how this can be annoying and threatening. In fact, that legitimate company in their device have a malware for you. Of course, this was publicly announced and they removed such malware, but even companies can do that for you just to push advertising. The other quite interesting, very similar case is in 2013, Nokia Express browser. But in this case, what was detected that the Nokia was decrypting a secure HTTPS communication, the traffic on their proxy servers, and they were getting clear text access to customers' encrypted browser traffic. And this is threatening. Of course, the company later mentioned that it was all security measures and they have not tracked private data, etc. But again, it's a legitimate company collecting data for ad purposes. And we can be maybe just happy that it's only a companies which collecting for ad revenue. But if such attacks might be leaked and gain access, you can lose money in that case, not just get annoying ads in your browser. And of course, how to protect from man-in-the-middle attack. Again, the rules are very similar with the malware. If you have an important website, always manually log out. Don't wait till session gets timeouted. Use multi-factor authentication. It's always a key. An attacker cannot access if it doesn't can reach the website or log into your device. Antivirus might help in this case. They can see abnormal activity. Use the VPN if you are in the public Wi-Fi. Maybe man in the middle can get that traffic, but it will be in gibberish. It won't be able to see and understand what is happening. Of course, always avoid public Wi-Fi without password. Using traffic without password, it does not encrypt your traffic, and man in the middle can use ARP spoofing or other techniques to route your traffic through them. And lastly, use only HTTPS websites. One of the ways how user can detect that it's a victim of man-in-the-middle attacks if the browser should work in HTTPS, but it works in HTTP. It means that you might get hacked, and since they're stripping security part, they're stripping the encryption, and you might data be leaked for the man-in-the-middle attack. And lastly, let's talk about brute force attack. The brute force attack is a hacking method that uses, in fact, very simple trial and error method while trying to crack the password, guessing victims' credentials, encryption keys, etc. It's like lockpicking. You're trying all pick all the parts, all the pins one by one. And of course, the name of this attack comes from the successfully forceful attempts to gain access. And you would be imagined that even in these days, it is still remarkable, reliable tactic for gaining access to individual accounts, systems, networks. And again, the purpose is very similar as with the attacks of man in the middle. Collect private data, steal identity, gain log information, infect victim device. It's no different. Different method, same purpose. And of course, there is These 5 types are quite common of brute force attacks: the dictionary, simple attack, hybrid, reverse, and credential attack. But I like to go further and deeper about the free ones. The credential attack. The credential recycling attack is very still working, since people are like to use 1 or 2 passwords on all their accounts. And with that, hacker just can get maybe one successful hacking on one account, and then he tries to go through all websites, Twitter, Facebook, Google, CityB, RMS, anything. They will try to use this your same username and password in all other websites. And if you are using this same password policy in your case, then you can be a victim of brute force attack. The reverse brute force attack, and this brute force attack a bit goes upside down. Instead of trying to guess password of your account, the hacker chooses the quite common password, like password 123, which is, or QWERTY, which are still very common passwords in the world, and just takes the one password, goes to the website, and then smashes all the username they can know and can generate. And in this way, they also can gain access, since, as I mentioned, weak passwords are still a thing. And lastly, we have the hybrid brute force attack, which is very sophisticated, since it uses dictionary attack of list of known passwords and implies simple brute force attack to alter the known passwords. If you have password 123, oh, I will be smart and I will make a mistake. I will write password with 1S. Well, this is a hybrid brute force attack, and you can be a victim. So always choose strong passwords. And of course, the measures how to save against brute force attack: strong password. Use at least 10, 12 symbols in your password. The more symbols, the better. It's harder to crack down symbols. Use more different symbols, capital letters, small case letters, stars, exclamation marks, numbers, anything helps. Use unique password for every account. This allows you to save yourself from recycling brute force attack. Password manager. Well, the password manager started using for such case, and first 2 is no more a problem for me, since the password manager creates a random strong password. You don't have to remember, you just can have one very strong password for yourself, and every site gets unique password. Enable multi-factor authentication. This is a common thing. If sites allow, use it. If you have a product which requests accounts for communication, enable in your services multi-factor authentication. Nowadays, we have numerous of multi-factor authentication tools: Google Authenticator, SMSs, Teltonika ID in our case. We have a number of that. Limit login attempts. Brute force attack is brute forcing. So limit to 5 attempts and then block that IP address. This can save a day for your clients and, of course, yourself. And of course, the possible vector of attack is unused accounts. You have old worker in your company, remove that account the same day it left the work. Because this is done because the old accounts can be a possible threat to your network. They aren't updated frequently. They are not updating the passwords anymore. Remove those accounts. And of course, honorable mention of occurred brute force attacks, and of course, I want just to mention a few of them. In 2013, the Cloudflare, well-known DDoS prevention partner, noted that significant brute force attack occurred against WordPress platform. In fact, around 60 million requests of brute force attack was blocked in 1 hour. So just imagine, so 60 million requests. The WordPress platform just received DDoS and brute force attack at the same time. Wow. And of course, other very interesting fact I have found is that in 2015 October, the Taobao, the site, the Alibaba which owns Alibaba, was affected by massive brute force attack. 21 million users' accounts was compromised. And for such attack, the attacker, have used database of 99 million usernames and passwords. So just imagine they already have databases with 99 million passwords and username, and with that amount, they have managed to affect 21 million users. It's like 7 Lithuanians people. If every people in Lithuania have an account, no, just born child and our old parents. So, and that is it about the brute force attacks. Andrews, maybe you have something to tell.
Yes, I would like just shortly to sum up and just give me 1 second. So, thanks, Thomas, very much for the physical attacks and just one short slide about summing up. So, cybersecurity nowadays is a highly important thing. Uh, and as you saw in this presentation, there are many different threats from DDoS attacks to brute force attacks to phishing to other ones. So you must take care of your network and your cybersecurity. And just again, we have this recording. If you want to remember how to prevent from those attacks, just visit our website in a few days or YouTube channel, and you will get all the information. All right. So thank you. And Thomas, I think we can overview the questions, right?
Yeah, so we have a few questions, and
Hmm.
the one is question is quite related with nowadays situation, what happens in geopolitics, and of course, a question is product of which companies can be a security threat. Well, it is hard to tell, and we cannot, as a company, of course, in ethics, we cannot tell any names of the companies which might be a threat of security. Yes, there's now going some words from US government that certain companies from all our known country are currently a danger companies, can be danger companies for possible attack vectors. But we cannot speculate information. We have to know
Yeah.
for the fact that something happening. And the Belkin, the Nokia situation, I was able to use, and just it's historic data. It's already revealed and known fact.
Mhm.
But anything for the future or speculation, it just be unethical looking from our side, and of course on our maybe clients and our partner sides. It's again,
Mhm.
it's very not cool.
Yeah. And we have the second question related to the, let's say, software side. So I think Thomas, it's your.
Yeah, just give me a moment. I'll try to read it.
It's quite a long one. Yeah.
Yes,
So I can read it like
yeah,
loudly. Yeah. So there are some examples from device manufacturers in other countries with built-in features to send, let's say, your data to third unknown party or let's say back to themselves. How do we get to know about it? How do we know where our data is being sent?
yeah. About that, it's very interesting, and of course, in most cases, you cannot even know where data is sent. And of course, from device itself, like smartphone, it can have a numerous features with hidden layers of applications which performing scanning. And of course, there was information in the internet that some manufacturers are sending some anonymous data about what music you are listening or what browser you're using. And of course, this can be attacked and prevented maybe just from trying to configure your home network securely, your router, your firewall. So maybe there is some kind of known servers which can be blocked in the firewall and prevent the communication with that server. Some kind of smart company of smartphones are collecting data into some kind of server. So maybe this can be used, but this is again very advanced things, and most of the times the enterprises must work on that case. As a user, you have to educate yourself, find a device which allows to have the most wide have wide capabilities of blocking and controlling a firewall. Of course, it's not. And of course, not maybe coincidence. We are talking about the firewall because Teltonika networks devices are really allows user to configure the firewall very extensively. You can add any type of rules to our firewall and control what's going through our routers. So you can always go into internet, find the possible examples and what might be disabled or blocked to prevent such communication which might happen through our device.
Yeah, so a very long question and a very long answer.
It's very hard to answer.
Um, all right, so I think we got a new question, and I think it is the last one. So, how can I convince myself that my hosting provider has a high level of protection against cyber attacks?
Yes, this is a quite tricky thing. You have to a bit trust of them, and of course see the track record. Huge hosting providers, and again, they might have a DDoS attack or something like that, or other type of attacks on their servers, and they often, if they it was mitigated successfully, it's always for them it's a good thing to PR this. The AVS, they themselves reveal the data about such attack that they have occurred, or again Google, it's also giving the information about. So again, try to look for that information, but of course always talk with their support team to know what might they tell themselves, how they mitigate. Ask questions, maybe how you are preventing. Maybe is they have any policy on preventing rules. And of course, always check the information. We cannot tell the exact that AVS is better than Google. No, since everyone can be attacked, and the cloud. Yeah, everyone knows that Cloudflare is very good at DDoS mitigation, but again, there's also other companies, and of course, but it must be done a research. That's why I have mentioned the preparation part. You doing your research, finding the partners,
Mm,
collaboration, etc.
yeah, great answer. All right, so Thomas, I think this is it. And thanks to everybody to joining this webinar, and we are going to upload the recording and Q&A session to our website.
Yeah, great. Thank you for your time and for listening us. Have a nice day.